Welcome to this breaking news episode of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter Job Search Site and one of your two co-hosts. We have a crowded room here today. Peter, good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'm Peter Zollman of the AIM Group, and we're going to get right to it. We're not going to talk for 10 minutes about what we do. We have with us today Christian Schulze. He is in Frankfurt. He's the professor at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. And we also have Max Kaiser. He's a director of data science for Grips Intelligence. They published a study recently about the impact of AI on users' journey in e-commerce. And it's fascinating. I will confess, I had to put my academic hat on to read the abstract. And I like to call the detailed analysis a 5-foot, 10-inch report, just a little bit over my head. But that said, it was fascinating. And rather than me summarizing it, why don't I ask Christian and Max to tell us a little bit about their findings and the AI impact on e-commerce journey.
Thanks for having us. I'm going to jump right in with a little bit of backdrop, and then maybe Max can fill in. So when we started the study, our big question was, how good is ChatGPT and traffic that comes from ChatGPT to e-commerce website compared to other channels that are out there? And when ChatGPT first became a thing, many people were speculating about it being the Google killer, because obviously most of the traffic to e-commerce websites is driven by Google, both organic and paid search, and then come many, many other sources. And what we analyzed in our study is we looked at almost 1,000 e-commerce websites, and we compared the performance of traffic that comes from ChatGPT against the performance that comes from these other more traditional channels, including Google. And so this is what got us started. This is what the study is all about. And I'm excited to talk about this today.
And by the way, brilliant topic and extraordinarily timely. Mm-hmm. So what did you find, Max?
So we find a couple of things. So as Christian already mentioned, we look at different metrics that we wanted to investigate, and the half of them are monetary based. So this is what e-commerce really values, right? This is the conversion rate. This is the average order value. This is how these companies make their money. And there we found so far that ChatGPT is not performing really well with the referrals that they're sending to companies. So it only outperforms the paid social ads that we see. So ads you get on Instagram, on Facebook, other social media pages. We do see a upward trend. So over the observation period that ended around 1 or 2 months ago, we see that it's slowly approaching the same levels as organic traffic from Google, but it hasn't really caught up yet. We believe that within the next year, it's likely not going to happen, but afterwards, I mean, nobody can really predict the future, but the trajectory looks that way. I think more interesting for this audience is the second set of variables that we looked at, and these are the engagement metrics. So, for example, a bounce rate. Bounces mean you go to the website and you immediately leave again because it wasn't a good fit. You don't actually care about what you saw on this page. And there we see that ChatGPT is already sending really users to the right pages. So the bounce rates are very low. The average page views are high. The session duration is quite high. So the fit is already there. So people get to something that they're interested in, but they don't seem to really convert at the end. So the upper funnel part is already working. You get them to the right place, but maybe they don't trust ChatGPT yet to actually perform the transactions.
Awesome. So, Christian, I think the implication for a job board owner or leader like myself is that we've been sold this bill of goods by OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, the other owners of the LLMs that, okay, we, the LLMs, we're going to steal your content, but you're going to be really happy about it because we're going to send you a whole lot of visitors that you don't have to pay for. They're going to convert really well into job applicants because the intent is there. They've done a lot of research. Your customers, the employers, are going to be happy with it because these people are going to be really knowledgeable. And it kind of feels like a Back to the Future story. This is what Google sold us on in 1998, and now they've cut off. Some sites have lost 85% of their Google organic traffic in the last year. And I don't think there are too many job boards that are real happy with Google organic traffic right now. And I kind of feel like we're heading down maybe that same road with the ChatGPTs of the world. Is this, am I getting the scare, for lack of a better word, correct? Do you sort of see this as a warning sign?
So I think I totally get where you're coming from. And I want to qualify a few things that Max just said before we move on. And that is, Max talked about conversion rate, right? So the likelihood that somebody who comes directly from ChatGPT will enter your website and then, perform the desired action, make a purchase or whatever the desired action on the website is. Usually, some monetary transaction. And the way we observe this is on a so-called last click logic. So we assign the conversion to ChatGPT. And by the way, this is not us, this is how Google Analytics works, right? But we assign the conversion to ChatGPT if the last thing a user did before purchasing was clicking on an outgoing link on ChatGPT. If, however, the person clicks from ChatGPT, goes to your website, then 3 hours later goes to Google, clicks on a Google link and goes to your website and then converts, then Google will get that conversion and ChatGPT gets nothing, right? What this means is we are really good at talking about the lower funnel value of the different channels that we observe. But we are not really good at seeing exactly what's happening in the upper funnel, like when people still gather information, but when they're not yet ready to commit, not yet ready to purchase. So that being said, two facts are probably interesting. The first fact is that one of the big promises of ChatGPT, as you mentioned, is we're going to send you lots of traffic. And I just want to qualify this first assumption, which is in the almost 1,000 websites, 973 that we observe, ChatGPT is responsible for less than 0.2% of the entire website traffic, right? And if you look at data from across the internet, I don't think that we found weird websites. I think this is actually the norm rather than the exception. So the size of ChatGPT compared to, for example, Google organic search right now is ChatGPT is more than 200 times smaller. So the volume isn't there right now. And the other question that you ask is, well, what about the quality of the traffic? And what we can certainly say is that if you expected ChatGPT to, have a good conversation with the user, and then when everything is ready and the user is ready to purchase, they click and they come and buy. That story is certainly not true. That we can clearly see in our data.
Heads they win, tails we lose.
It clearly, this goes to two big topics in the marketplace industry entirely, which is attribution, and in job boards, it's called disposition data. What happened with the applicant, what happened with the traffic and so forth and so on. And we could probably spend 20 minutes talking about each of those, but we're not going to. The AIM group had a real estate report about 4 weeks ago. And one of the articles that fascinated me most kind of tracks with what you said. We spoke to 4 or 5 real estate marketplaces around the world, and they said tiny traffic, but that traffic is extremely engaged and is much more likely to take some sort of action. And whether it's setting an appointment, setting up an interview, calling the agent, downloading the agent. So that sort of tracks with what you're saying in terms of engagement. Do you think that will grow exponentially, grow a little bit? How do you think it will grow over time? By the way, let me interrupt myself for a second. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen is come on, Stephen. In the right-hand corner. Oh, look at
Max has
Max.
really got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over Max's shoulder is a
for those
QR.
listening to the audio only versions. One
Yeah.
of us pointed properly.
There is a QR code that you can use to download their research report. It is interesting. It is fascinating. It is extraordinarily academic. But if you are a data scientist or if you are one of those folks, you'll definitely want to download it and read it and learn from it. And I'm sure they're planning a follow-up study in another year or so. Is that a good guess?
Well, let's see how ChatGPT looks like in a year, right? But of course, we would just from a personal interest see how this evolves. Of course, we're super interested in that.
So people listening to the audio only version, and I'll throw the link to the study into the show notes, and if you would like to pressure Christian and Max to do this work again in a year, put a comment in, maybe even a threat.
And if you're listening to audio only, Google Christian Schultz, that Schultze with an E on the end, and Maximilian Kaiser e-commerce study, and I'm guessing it will come up. So there you go. Back to the real estate. Does that track with what you're seeing?
So in this very long research piece, if you wouldn't believe it, we actually have a page limit. So we wanted to put more into it, but we're not allowed to put more into it. In the appendix, you will find a sort of breakdown by the different categories that we observed. And you already see that we don't have a lot of job and career pages in our data set, but they already exhibit a share of ChatGPT traffic of 2%. So this is already 10x to the rest of the data that we observe. I don't think we have any real estate pages in our website because it's just too far away from our e-commerce interests here. But I would say, especially in these cases of information gathering, and I would say both the jobs and career market and the real estate, you're probably not going to really buy a real estate on like the same way you would buy a pair of new shoes online. So
You
I
might
would
be
say,
surprised, by the way, but
I see.
yeah.
But I guess the share of that is a bit lower. And I think definitely will see an increase there in traffic. The only thing I wanted to add is also there's of course the demand of consumers or researchers to look on these certain websites, but there's also the drive from OpenAI itself to make this a better system for this type of ChatGPT topics. For example, in e-commerce, they now introduced a agentic commerce protocol where they try to facilitate e-commerce websites giving their products into ChatGPT. And if they see a value in that, for example, for real estate, then they're probably going to do a similar system where it's basically not random or probabilistic how they gather this information, but real estate websites and job market websites can provide the information in a structured way, so it's easier for ChatGPT to digest. And this would certainly dramatically increase the traffic, I believe.
Great. I think we have time for one more very quick question. Peter, do you mind if I grab it?
No, not at all.
So Christian, just to quickly wrap up, because one of the things that I read, and I did read the entire report, by the way. So
Excellent.
Kudos to me. There may have been a whiskey involved, but one of the things that I noticed is that you were very clear, I think, in several places about distinguishing between sort of where we're at today with the disparity versus where I think you speculated something like a year from now. If the data kind of continues to converge at the rate it is, that in roughly a year, the conversion rate should be about the same. None of us have a crystal ball. Any reasons why, Christian, why you think that it's converging?
This is a fantastic question. We have a long list of potential reasons. We don't know exactly what the reason is, but here are just a few thoughts. So one thing that's happening in parallel to the conversion rate from ChatGPT increasing is the average order value is decreasing. And so this doesn't explain the entire effect, but obviously people's likelihood of making a purchase is higher for cheaper products. So part of the increase that we are seeing might be simply the results of people buying other products, or you mentioned trust earlier, people trusting ChatGPT with recommendations for cheaper products, but maybe not yet for more expensive products. So that's one explanation, but there are a long list of additional explanations. One is certainly consumer trust. Maybe consumers need more time to learn to trust recommendations from ChatGPT. Maybe they shouldn't be trusted ultimately. Trust needs to be earned. And so we'll see, with all the hallucinations and wrong information, et cetera, whether ChatGPT and other platforms will establish them as trustworthy for the future. So that's one factor, what consumers do. A second factor is, what do websites do? Websites are not yet optimized, and Max alluded to this, for usage by LLMs. So LLMs have to visit the websites as if they were humans and read the website as if they were humans. This is very cost intensive for the LLM, and as a result, there are a lot of errors happening, and information doesn't get transported properly. So the websites are slowly optimizing. This might drive the increase in conversion rate. And the third one is, OpenAI has an incentive to get better, right? Because if they want to remain the dominant platform, and at the time of our study, they are responsible for more than 90% of all the LLM traffic worldwide, right? So in our data set, at least. So it's not the Claudes, the Groks, the Geminis. It is ChatGPT 90% plus. And so if they want to stay in that position, they too need to improve how they create value for consumers. And so they have worked on this. There are new initiatives on the way. All of this leads us to think that maybe conversion rate will increase further in the future. But as Max said earlier, it's a little bit like, looking into the crystal ball. What we know for sure is right now, ChatGPT is not in a position to, deplace Google or any of the other channels as a channel for conversions on e-commerce websites.
Talk about burying the lead. That's a sentence that will be the lead of our article in a day or two. But that was great. We could go on. We've already run 3 minutes over our standard time. We could go on and on. This has been terrific. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Pop that QR code up one more time, Stephen. And we will say Dankeschön and Auf Wiedersehen, and have a good evening. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.